we're doing Romans 12:13, right? Sean just said Romans 12:12 about persevering. And honestly, I don't necessarily agree with my title of hospitality. It's like half hospitality, and then like half like another thing. So it's like really two parts. Like in my mind, I dissected and moved it apart. Maybe like I'll join them back together in the end, and we can see what we got. But like in my head, when I was looking at this, I was like, this is two parts. So let's go Romans 12:13, and it says, contribute to the needs of the saints and seek to show hospitality. All right, super short verse. So I wrote this down in my head as contribute to the needs of the saints, and then part B, and seek to show hospitality. So we're going to work on the contribute to the needs of the saints part first, and like see what that means, and see how it affects our lives, and maybe we'll look at some Old Testament because I'm quickly learning. I'm like, I love the Old Testament maybe a little bit too much. I'm sounding like Bob Jones sometimes, and I'm like, all right, so we're going to go to Genesis 33. And so we're going to look at like a principle of giving and contributing to the needs of the saints. And I think this ties in really well. And we have like two very surprising characters here in Genesis 33, at least as far as giving. You have Jacob and Esau. And if you know Jacob and Esau, these were like two brothers that like did not get along. Like younger brother was just like stealing everything from the older brother. Mama was helping. Whole family drama. Like y'all think y'all got family drama. Jacob and Esau, a whole nother level. All right, they were way up here. So yeah, Jacob. So these two brothers, the last time they had seen each other, just to set the scene, the last time they had seen each other, they were. Esau was literally planning on killing Jacob. Like it was like a whole thing. So like Mama found out, and Mama, sent Jacob away. So Jacob was clearly the mama's boy in that interaction, and for most of the records in there. So we'll pick it up in. This is the first time these brothers are reuniting. All right, so it's not a big deal. In verse 4 is where I wanted to pick it up. But Esau ran to meet him and embraced him and fell on his neck and kissed him. And they wept, right? Beautiful. Brotherly love, reunited, all the happiness, right? And when Esau lifted up his eyes and saw the women and children, he said, who are these with you? Jacob said, the children whom God has graciously given your servant. And like, I like this line from Jacob, like, God graciously has given your servant. And you'll like see this as a like important factor throughout this passage. Graciously given your servant. Then the servants drew near, they and their children, and for some reason he sent all of his wives and children ahead of him. I don't know. He probably thought he wouldn't kill all the women and children first, right? I don't know. But then again, this was ancient, so the women and children were not off limits. And then the servants drew near, they and their children, and bowed down. Leah likewise and her children drew near and bowed down, and last Joseph and Rachel drew near, and they bowed down. And in verse 8, Esau said, what do you mean by all this company that I met? And Jacob answered, to find favor in the sight of my Lord. Verse 9, but Esau said, I have enough, my brother. Keep what you have for yourself. So Jacob was like trying to give him a gift, and Esau was like, I have enough. And then we keep going, and it says, in verse 10, Jacob said, no, please, if I have found favor in your sight, then accept my present from my hand. For I am seeing your face, which is like seeing the face of God, and you have accepted me. I thought this was very interesting. Like, I've seen your face, which is like seeing the face of God. Like, last time, like Esau was literally trying to kill him, and I thought, like, that is a like Christian principle, a New Testament principle that is wrapped up in this Old Testament passage, like just right there. And I think it has a big deal with one, like all of our lives, demonstrating the gospel, demonstrating Jesus' love, like all of that. And it also has this gigantic big deal on how we look at like giving as well, and how I think maybe Jacob looked at this as well. So we're going to take a little break from this passage and come back. So if you have a marker, leave it. If you don't, then you're going to have to turn that back there using your fingers. I'm sorry. I hope you don't get a paper cut. or leave too many sponges on your tablet. The worst. We're going to go to Matthew 25. I didn't tell you where we're going. We're going to Matthew 25. All right, I already turned there. So Matthew 25, 31. All right, here we go, guys. Stay ahead of me. Yeah. Matthew 25, 31. And I think, all there. When the Son of Man comes in all of his glory and all the angels with him, then he will sit on his glorious throne. Before him will be gathered all the nations, right? So, judgment scene, we're all right there. God, Jesus judging us, right? And all the nations gathered to, and he will separate the people one from another, and the shepherds separate the sheep from the goats, right? Sean nailed this sermon a while back, like many years, I don't know, it might not be many years ago, but quite a few years ago, right? Separating the sheep from the goat. You don't want to be the goat, be the sheep, right? The sheep follows the shepherd. And he will place the sheep on his right and the goats on the left. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world." So inheriting the kingdom that God has prepared for us, right? Here it goes. And for I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. I was naked, you clothed me. I was sick, you visited me. I was in prison and you came to me. Then the righteous will answer him saying, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? And when did we see you a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick or in prison and visit you?" And the king will answer them, "Truly I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers, you did it to me." And so that's what I think when I see this verse back in Genesis 31, in Jacob was seeing his brother Esau and seeing God and giving him a gift. And it's like this whole process where, do I think that he's trying to worship Esau? No, I don't think that's what's going on. But I think that he's seeing him and giving him the gift out of that love, and that the love almost that he would have towards God, he's having towards his brother in this moment. And it's a substitutionary effect. And I think it's huge. I know it's huge for the gospel because of this passage in Matthew, which we're not even done with. But you can go ahead and turn back to Genesis, and we'll just finish up that passage. Genesis 33. All right, we're back. And we're picking it up in verse 11. And it says, "Please accept my blessing that is brought to you, because God has dealt graciously with me, and because I have enough." And thus he urged him, and he took it. And the premise is that God had dealt graciously with Jacob, So then Jacob was dealing graciously with Esau. All right, and giving him a gift, like completely, maybe not even necessary. He was giving him a gift because of what God had given him, right? And he acknowledged that God had given him what he was giving Esau. And in this way, it was like he wasn't even necessarily holding it, like he was just passing it along. And that is the premise of giving, like biblical giving. And we're going to hit that again. But first, we're going to go to Ephesians because I want to like knock out this one verse that I think is a big deal. Ephesians 4, 28. All right, Ephesians 4:28 says, "Let the thief no longer steal, but rather let him labor, doing honest work with his own hands, so that he may have something to share with anyone in need." And I love this verse because there are a lot of persons that say work and like you reap what you sow, sort of, and then but this verse is saying like sow so that you can reap for somebody else, so that you can give to somebody in need. Like it's no longer about you. Like your work, your paycheck, your money is no longer about giving to somebody else. So it's no longer about like I just need to work enough for me. I need to work enough for somebody else over here who has a need. And like that is so huge. And I think it changes the way that we look at our work and what we need and what is required of us. And how we view our wages in light of this. And so we'll go ahead and we're going to go to 2 Chronicles. Yeah, 2 Chronicles. And another David reference because gotta love David. Or 1 Chronicles, sorry. I wrote it wrong in my notes and then I typed it in when I was trying to go back over and I realized, oh, this is not right. Not right. I have made an error. 1 Chronicles 29 and verse 10. So in this passage, David is, if you remember, I didn't talk. No, I did. I brought up the verse from 2 Samuel 7 the first time I was teaching in this class. And in that passage, God is making this covenant with David about the coming kingdom, and David wants to build him a temple, and God's like, no, you can't do that. And he's like, your son will do it. And in this passage, David basically is like, well, you won't let me, but I might as well get everything ready. So like logistically, like David just prepares the whole thing. He's like, all right, all you got to do is build it now, Solomon. Here you go. And he's handing him everything. And it's great. So this is what we're walking into here. And so this is one of David's prayers. And I love like this part, like verses 10 to 13, like the doxology in it, and the gratitude, and you'll see. All right, here we go. Therefore, David, in verse 10, therefore David blessed the Lord in the presence of all the assembly. And David said, blessed are you, O Lord, and God of our Father, forever and ever. Yours, O Lord, is the greatness and the power and the glory and the victory and the majesty, for all that is in the earth and in all that is in the heavens and in the earth is yours. Yours is the kingdom, O Lord, and you are exalted as head above all. Both riches and honor come from you, and you rule over all. In your hand are power and might, and in your hand it is to make great and to give strength to all. And now we thank you, our God, and praise your glorious name. And like if you like read that over, it's like there is not a you or your that isn't in every sentence that isn't referring to God. And every time it is pointing like up towards God, God's strength, God's glory. And if you look at the parts that I want to focus in are like, for all, in verse 11 it says, for all that is in the heavens and on earth is yours. Like, he points it directly back to God. All that we see is God. All right, and that's the whole thing. Like, the whole thing, everything you can see is God. Like, there is nothing that you can't see that isn't God. And that, that's very important. And in verse 12, both riches and honor come from you. And I think it's easy for us to think, like, how to get more money, how to get more honor, and we look at ways to do it on our own or how to do it where it doesn't involve God. We don't assume or have the faith that God is the one who gives the riches and honor and glory, right? That's not what we assume. We assume is that honor comes from, in our society, from power, right? Or from money, or from a very social status. But that's not what God is saying here. He's saying it comes, or David is saying here, says it comes from you. And you rule over all right? God rules over all. In your hand are power and might, and in your hand it is to make great and to give strength to all. So in God's hand it is to make great and give strength to all. To all. There's the phrase, all right? And now we thank you and praise your glorious name. And every time, David is just pointing it back to God, pointing it back to God, pointing it back to God. All right? And I just love it. And let's go ahead and we'll continue on verse 14. And it says, but who am I and what is my people that we should be able thus to offer willingly? So just like break this statement down, because it's semi-important. It says, but who am I and what are the people around me, right? We'll just say the church, ready? Who am I and what are we like? What are we, right? That we should be able to offer willingly. It's saying that the fact that we're able to offer willingly is an honor. Like, that's what this question is saying. It's saying, who am I that I get this great honor of giving stuff away? Not even in my mind that it's an honor to give stuff away. Like, that thought never occurred to me. Didn't occur. Not even in my brain. And the finisher here, all right, here's where it all ties together. It says, the answer to the question is, for all things come from you, and of your own have we given you. For all things come from you, and of your own have we given you. So they're saying, David's saying, like, all things come from you, so everything in here is God. And he's saying, all the work that I've done and all the things that I've acquired and all the things I've given to you, I'm just giving back to you what you have given to us, basically. What is yours? Like, that's it. That's the whole, like, that is what David is saying here. And it's revolutionary at how you look at giving. But we'll continue on because it gets better. I sound like a commercial right now. But wait, there's more. And there is more. This passage gets even better. For we are strangers before you. Like, complete acknowledgement of where he is. Like, we are strangers before you and sojourners, and all our fathers were. Our days on earth are like a shadow, and there is no abiding. Removes all significance from himself. It's all gone. And it's all to God. David's opening prayer here is where all the significance is, and it's all pointing to God. And he's removed all of the significance from himself, removes himself completely from the gift that he is giving to God, which is not insignificant. All right, if you look at that, it's crazy. And like, he's completely gone. Like, he's out of it. He's out of the picture. Like, he is completely sold out. And he's completely given everything to God. All right, and continuing on, verse 16, it says, Our Lord, our God, O Lord, our God, all this abundance that we have provided for building you a house for your holy name comes from your hand and in all your own. He just like repeats himself. He's got to give it up again, right? And verse 17, I know, my God, that you test the heart and have pleasure in uprightness. In the uprightness of my heart, I have freely offered all these things. And now I have seen your people who are present here, offering freely and joyously to you. And like, this is the key to joyful giving. Because joyful giving is like an anomaly. Like, it does not really work in my head. Like, from a survivalist sort of mode, you want to keep everything, keep all the provisions for yourself, keep all the wealth for yourself. Like, that's what you want to build wealth, right? That's what all the financial planners say. And this is not what this is saying, like, at all. Like, this is saying, we'll go back, read this last section, because it's important, this last verse. In verse 17, I know, my God, that you test my heart and have pleasure in uprightness. In the uprightness of my heart, I have freely offered these things to you. And now I have seen your people who are present here, offering freely and joyously to you. And the reason why it was freely given is David never thought he actually had it. Like, he acknowledged that it was, he never, acknowledged it as his own. He always acknowledged it as God's. Like, and that's what this verse is saying. And he's like, you've given it to me, and I'm giving it back to you. And that is how you joyfully give. Like, that's the secret right there. Is you never think of it as your own. You think of it as something that God has given you to give to somebody else, or to something else, or back to Him. And that's beautiful. And that's how we should look at giving to the saints and those in need and our belonging. And I think that's the major heart issue that goes on there. All right, so we're going to go for seat hospitality now. We're going to break it up, close that one off, and we might bring it back in later. But let's go ahead and, Rose, are we semi-good on the video? Yeah? All right, sweet. We're going to play a video.
This time, where so many Christian ideas are understood as hate speech. After the Obergefell decision legalized gay marriage, that put the gospel on a collision course with the new law of the land. And I think many Christians have been struggling with, well, how do I speak? What do I do? How do I move forward? Is a vital place to invite your neighbors in, to have some heartfelt conversations. We can love our children together. We can let some things slide, even though the world we live in would say that we're supposed to be enemies. To me, hospitality is the ground zero of the Christian faith. I was raised in an Italian family. There were some issues in my house that made it almost impossible to have people in. So hospitality didn't really become endemic to my life until I had set up a home of my own. I was a professor at Syracuse. I lived as an out lesbian feminist in New York. In our LGBTQ community, somebody's home was open every night of the week. And there was never a question, where will I go if I need help? Because the community itself is organic and fluid, and that was how we dealt with crises. After I wrote my tenure book, I really wanted to write a book that was on my heart. why is the religious right such a hateful community? And why do they hate people like me? I was on a war against two things, patriarchy and stupid. So I was really curious to know why relatively decent people would use the Bible in such a hateful way. So I wrote an editorial, and it brought all kinds of attention my way, which I didn't really expect. But one of the things it brought my way was a letter from Ken Smith, the pastor of the Syracuse Reformed Presbyterian Church. When Ken and his wife Floy invited me to dinner, I was happy. I thought of Ken as my unpaid research assistant. And they were fine with the fact that I wanted to read the Bible to critique it. That began a research journey that changed my life. But it wasn't research that changed my life. In Ken and Floy's home, the way that they practiced hospitality became a living, breathing example of the theology that they were teaching. After my first dinner at Ken and Floy's house, Ken gave me a big hug, Floy gave me a big hug and a kiss on the cheek. We said, we'll catch up next week. This was fun. Can't wait to do it again. They did not share the gospel with me, and they did not invite me to church. And that was so wonderful, because what it showed to me was that they didn't see me as a project. They actually saw me as a neighbor. Now, I didn't step foot in the church for 2 years, but every week I was in their home. And every week it was clear that pretty much anything could go. We could ask anything. Ken and Floy were fine. And that process of dialogue and table fellowship was compelling. It was deeply compelling. I did not come to faith because I stopped feeling like a lesbian. It's not that I got all of my worldview issues just completely cemented with a happy Christian evangelism, not at all. I came to faith because I became convicted that Jesus is who he says he is. Ephesians 4:29 is our watchword, that we are to impart grace to the hearer. I might not agree with everything that you hold to be near and dear, but because we are neighbors, I don't have to say everything that's on my heart. And you don't have to say everything that's on your heart right now. We can put some of our worldview issues aside. And over years of this, the gospel takes on a momentum that is compelling to people. I think we need to give each other the reminder that it's God who saves. It's not about certainly us being perfect or our words being perfect, but show up we must in the lives of unbelievers. What comes naturally to me and what comes naturally to you is to hang out with people who are like us, people who can maybe finish our sentences, people who don't scare us. But hospitality, biblically speaking, takes strangers and makes them neighbors, and takes neighbors and makes them family of God. It's a great joy to see the gospel bring people together who are supposed to be enemies, and it's a great joy to know that God never gets the address wrong. And if your neighbors aren't people you know yet, there's a blessing waiting for you.
Well, I thought that was an awesome video, and I thought it was a great, he touched on a lot of great points in which hospitality is one of like an evangelistic measure. But I think there's a lot more. And I'm not gonna, I mean, like that video was great. So I'm like, what else am I gonna say? Yeah, I don't know. Nothing's gonna be that good, but I'm gonna try anyway, all right? Because you ain't got Rosario Butterfield up here, you got me. Sorry, you're stuck. And I, like, go to Act 2, Act 2:42. although she's like 3 hours away, I guess, in Syracuse. So, Sean. Oh, yeah. Poor lady. She didn't know what she left, apparently. All right. Well, Act 242. And here we, and I want to talk about this because I feel like this is key to hospitality, key to community, and I think a lot of this is an evangelistic measure, but it's also about community too, at least in my eyes. And they, for Acts 2:42, and they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and the fellowship, and to the breaking of bread and the prayers. And all came upon every soul, and many wonders and signs were being done through the apostles. And all who believed were together and had all things in common. We'll just stop right there, and I'll go back. And so there are four things that they were devoting themselves to the apostles' teaching. 1, devoting themselves to the apostles' teaching. Devoting themselves to fellowship. 2, devoting themselves to the breaking of bread. 3, and devoting themselves to prayer. 4. So that's what the early church was doing. That's how they were living in community, was they were doing these 4 things. All right, and point that out. This is their mentality. Here we go. And all came upon every soul, and many wonders and signs were being done through the apostles. And so I recognize, I'm going to say this ahead of time, I recognize that this is a very specific time in history where God is sending the Holy Spirit, and that's a big deal. So he's kind of showing out. God's showing out, showing some glory. That's what's going on here. And showing out is showing off. All right, so God's, never mind. All right. And so that's what's going on here a lot. But I also want to point out the fact that the community was doing these 4 things. And it all came upon every soul. And yes, that could have just been by God's design to help the gospel spread through his plan. But I also think there's an element where maybe because they were doing all 4 of these things in communion with each other in such close communion, and that maybe some of the awe was happening, and some of the miracles and some of these things were happening because of the faith that was among them. That maybe we're lacking nowadays. Maybe it isn't there so much. I don't know. I'll pick it up from where we left off. And all who believed were together and had all things in common. And they were selling their possessions. I'm not going to tell you to sell your possessions. And belongings, and distributing the proceeds to all, and any had need. And day by day, attending the temple together, breaking bread in their homes, they received their food with glad and generous hearts, praising God and having favor with all the people. And the Lord added to their number day by day those who were being saved. And I'm not saying sell your belongings, but what I am going to say is this was the prototype. This is the prototype for the kingdom, 100%. And I don't use that softly or mildly. That was the prototype for the kingdom. And unfortunately, we live in a wicked world where this is not 100% plausible or practical. And that's the thing that sucks. Is that we can't do this 100% because of the evil in this world. And that sucks. Because I would love to see some of that prototype of the kingdom here right now. That would be amazing. But it hits on so many things that I think we had all things in common, or I'm not saying sell your possessions, but I am saying look at the world differently through the lens of this. Don't do anything rash or stupid. But think about what happened here. Think about what's going on. And think about how you're living your life and how you want it to line up. So I'm saying use your brain. is what I'm saying. And we'll go back to verse 46 because I think it's huge. Is they would receive their food with glad and generous hearts. And I think, all right, this might seem like nothing, but it's not nothing because like I sat down and I ate dinner tonight. Like I sat down and I ate lunch this morning and I had breakfast. And there wasn't a whole lot of generous heart when I was eating my cereal this morning because I was like, man, I really don't really like cereal anymore. You know, like I would have killed somebody when I was 7 for that Cinnamon Toast Crunch. But like right now, I'm like, man, cereal's not that good. I don't know what I was thinking. And like that is what I'm saying is like we're like even the things that God has given us, like we might not be receiving with the gratefulness that maybe we should be. And I think that plays into even hospitality. Like when you go to somebody's house, expect maybe, you know what, don't expect to sit on your butt, expect to like get your hands dirty. And that's what she'll tell you. Like Rosario Butterfield, that's how she runs her life. That's how she does hospitality. It's like, you walk in this house, you probably have to do something for that meal. Like, you know, a little give and take because there's other things going on. And I think that's huge. And I think this hospitality thing isn't just like finally something women can do. Like, no. Because if you're a terrible host as a man, like then God is calling you to do this too. Like, that's it. Like, that's 100%. Like, sorry, you don't get out of it. It's there. Like, you're supposed to be a good host. You're supposed to be hospitable. Like, there are 100 other verses that go along with this. Like, there are men who have entertained angels, right? We can go back to that in Hebrews, right? But I'm not going to go there because, like, I feel like it's kind of lame. Because 9 million people, anybody can think of that and go there. And, like, I'm not trying to spoon feed you stuff that you already know. Trying to give you something new. So opening our homes up to strangers is important. And like, that is, like, in our communities, like, I can say one of the things that made me a Christian for so long and helped me, like, get through so many of the things that I got through were, like, dinners at Sean and Ruth and fellowship on Wednesday night. And things like this, where people's homes were open and it wasn't just church. Because I think if it was just church, it, like, I don't know, like, that's not a great way to become a new Christian. Like, that's not like setting a great example. Like, all of a sudden you were living with these people, and like she said, you were seeing their theology lived out, right? And that does a lot more for the heart and for the mind than, like, just reading it or somebody telling you about it. And that's what we get to do for others, all right? That's how you look at hospitality, and that you get to live out your theology for others. And it de-isolates us. That's my second point, because this is like a huge problem. It's like you have your device. I don't know about you, but it feels like I had a whole lot more free time, like back in the day, and all of a sudden I'm massively busy. And I'm like, but I have less people in my life, which is crazy. And so like most of us are isolated. This de-isolates us. This makes us part of a community, which is what God had intended for us, right? Is that we live in community with other Christians. It gives us and the people around us a safe space when they're down, all right? That they know they can go when, I don't know if you picked this up, but when she said she was a lesbian, or and she knew friends every night of the week where she could go when she was having a moment. And like church should be the same way. Like if the LGBT, like if they're doing something we're not doing and caring for some people better, like maybe we should pick something up here, you know? It gives people security, knowing that they have other people around them that care about them. Sometimes that may not matter. And it allows people to see who you really are. Like, and that helps out tremendously when you're in somebody's home and you can see like the chaos. Because like frankly, we all come to this building and we all like come with the expectation that you're not going to show up in your sweatpants and you're not going to have a mess, dragging around a mess. But sometimes when you walk in somebody's house, they're gonna have a little mess where the kids made in the living room. They're gonna have a stain on the carpet. Like, it's just not gonna be tied together picture perfect. And if it is, then you're probably single and not dating anybody. That's just probably a fact. Or not that busy. I don't know. I don't know how you pull that one off. God bless you. And that's pretty much all I have to say about this. But the giving and the hospitality all tie in together. I'm not going to talk about it anymore because I'm out of time. But we'll close in prayer. God, I thank you for your love and mercy and grace. And I pray that you would allow us to view our possessions in light of you and give to those in need and give to those who have need in the church and really treat them as one of us with us and view our goods properly. And I pray that we would be hospitable people, that we would reach out to those who need it. In the name of Jesus Christ, I pray, amen.